The degrading of Australia's land is now so widespread and so severe that it's easily the biggest environmental dilemma that we face.
We are all spellbound by the fact that we imagine this as a big country. It's big in terms of square kilometres, but it's not big in terms of its area of fertile soils. 70% of it is classed as arid and semi-arid. The other 30% the soils are mainly infertile.
The dust storm that darkened Melbourne in 1983 may have been a final warning. Tons of soil wafted through the city, creating a scene that looked like it came from a movie about the end of the world. It was a spooky symptom of our major ailment.
That's about as much as we can tell you now. They're just ghosts, the 800-metre corner.
Because it's out of sight, out of mind. We're so urbanised, we're locked into our burgeoning cities and consumerism and so on, and we've got no idea of what's happening out there on the land. And it's not until that huge cloud of soil that came into Melbourne from the Victorian mallee lands, those wheat lands, did people start to say, well, something is amiss and we've got to do something about it.
32 million hectares, that's an area 5 times the size of Tasmania, is now salted. For every tonne of wheat produced, the sacrifice is at best 3, but as much as 16 tonnes of precious topsoil. The blanket use of superphosphate has left us with vast and growing areas of acidified soil. Maintaining our farmlands is clearly a far more costly and complex exercise than we ever believed it was.
Farming is a very complicated business, and I think that more people in Australia should recognise what very difficult management systems farmers have to deal with.
The agriculturists of the past knew no better. Their quest for clear farming country was relentless, their task performed as though their lives depended on it.
Grandpappy decided that, well, he had to ring the trees to get grass.
Did he really?
Yep.
Hell.
And, you know, to think that now, well, I'm only the 2nd generation after grandfather, and here we are, planting trees back again.
It's gone a complete circle.
Well, it really has, because...
Don Mitchell's family have been farming in the Barossa Valley for 7 generations.
My idea has always been to stay here. I'm a farmer born and bred and hope to stay that way. My son, I think, intends to be the same way. And, well, his son at, 3 years old, I hope, will continue the line.
Some years ago, that line was threatened when the Mitchells began losing some of their better country to salinity. The creeping salt continued until they decided they'd seen enough.
The crunch really came when we suddenly found that we didn't have one green tree in a paddock. That worried me.
Then came a concerted replanting program. Among the locations, the very same spots where Don's great-grandfather ring-barked trees more than half a century earlier.
Now there's a new purpose, a renewed urgency, this time to repair the damage.
I'm doing it for this generation, for him, because we can see now with aerial photographs and so on that the problem is getting worse. The best way to improve it that we can see is to return it to the way Mother Nature gave it to us originally.
The problem will worsen quite drastically before it gets any better. By 2020, it's estimated that 20% of farmland will have to be sacrificed to accumulate and evaporate salt. But which farmers provide that 20%?
This would be a very difficult problem in a social sense, because the most obvious and practicable may in fact not be on a particular farm, but maybe on a neighbour's property. Very difficult social problem.
Genetic engineering will provide some answers. For example, wheat that thrives in salt-affected country. And the livestock of 2020 will be the product of the same work. The reconstruction of a biochemical pathway lost during evolution has dramatically improved the wool-growing capability of these sheep. They're the subjects of pioneering research undertaken by the University of Adelaide. The sheep eggs are injected with genes, isolated because of their favourable properties.
The researchers know the genes have been successfully implanted and that they're active. What follows is a game of biological wait and see. With a national wool check that runs to $5 billion a year, even the promise of an increase as low as 20%, and that's a conservative estimate, is a lucrative incentive.
Well, I think Australia has to face up to introducing all the new technologies it possibly can to keep in the world markets. That's essential. We're up against big competitors, and there are other countries around the world who are involved in gene technology, and we're doing our very best in this country to do the same.
Our fully automated shearing sheds of 2020 may be visited by the same animal many more times than the current once a year. And the concept has as much potential in the water. The same technology could provide more profitable fish and see this nation develop into the aquaculture centre of the world.
They'll grow faster, they'll be more domesticated, and they'll be able to breed a lot more, so the production will be many, many times higher than what it is now.
They've already been harvesting for more than 4 hours at the Tassal Fish Farm. Prime Atlantic salmon, grown in the waters of Tasmania's Huon Estuary, near the very southern tip of this country. These fine specimens will help meet the world's burgeoning appetite for seafood. By the year 2000, the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization foresees a critical shortage. Demand will exceed supplies from the wild by more than 20 million tonnes.
That shortage will guarantee the future of aquaculture as a boom agribusiness. It's expected to account for as much as half the world's fisheries production by the year 2000. And Australia is positioning itself to take a large slice of that massive market.
I think it's going to be really big. It's going to be much bigger than what the fishing industry is, and I put value of it around about $1,500 million per annum.
Aquaculture has a checkered record in Australia. Hundreds of ventures have been undertaken. Few have survived. The careful processing is all part of a pandering to consumers who demand that their delicacy arrives not only fresh, but also unblemished. Even when the fish itself is finished with, there's the way it's presented for export. The packaging is upmarket silver and blue. The destination is less than 24 hours away in the most fickle market of all. The Japanese have been quick to recognise the overwhelming advantage Australia has over other producers. Our fish farms haven't been fouled by pollution, and keeping them clean will keep this industry alive.
We've certainly seen evidence in aspects of aquaculture in overseas countries where their attention to detail in harvesting methods and disease control have left industries in decimation. We must ensure that's the aspect that doesn't apply in Australia.
It's an example of sustainable development. That's the buzz phrase of the Green Awakening, a concept that represents the shotgun marriage of ecology and economics, of conservation and development. Holding the gun is an environment that shows no signs of forgiveness for the unrelenting stress that industry has placed upon it.
The point is to find new products, new services, new technologies that we can sell both to ourselves and to the rest of the world, which at the same time either conserve the environment or perhaps even enhance it.
After the break, the 3-hour express between Sydney and Melbourne. And the 2020 crime rate.
We will find generally, I think, that we live in fear of crime.